the average male is more physically like is stronger than
Yeah.
your average female.
Wait, even cricket? You don't think that would be just as good or even
Yeah,
better
I mean,
in
there's
cricket?
like every professional cricket player is so much better than me who's a female, right? Do you think that so while we're talking about girls being part of the community, because it's very rare to see girls in like professional esports, and I strongly feel like that's a cultural thing and a marketing and societal thing. But does anyone feel like girls are naturally worse at video games than guys? Is there like genetic predispositions to being worse at games? Would that be possible?
I mean, I don't know, but I think it's kind of like if we look at something like football, or soccer, whatever you want to call it. It's like if we look at like men's football, whatever, like it's super popular. Like you probably, despite me, I hate football, but like I know a couple of names, even like from Denmark, etc. But it's like if we then look at the women's team, I'm like I cannot mention a single name. Like I
Mm.
cannot because it's just not as big, and there are not a lot of people that actually watch women play football compared to men playing football. So
Mm.
I think um, that's kind of the same thing for esports because it's kind of like when you have like a little kiddo or whatever. What sports is this boy gonna play? Of course, the boy's gonna play football. It's kind of a um, I guess you could say like manly sport or whatever, like
Yeah.
predominantly male.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
then guys grow up with those role models, and girls don't have them, so they're less likely to get involved in those things. Gaming,
Yeah,
I see gaming.
I definitely go a little bit more down the path of like my thought process go down the path of it's a societally reinforced thing over
Yeah.
the ages, so like
Yeah.
in a couple of 100 years time, like in Australia we see like female football being like promoted a little bit more, and it's coming through, and it's starting to get a little bit more traction, and over hundreds of years of doing this, you're probably going to have women growing up that know from a young age, hey, look, this is a potential profession. This is something that I can follow. This is somebody I can look up to and aspire to be. And so those professions become more and more mainstream, and the sport gets bigger and bigger, and there's more people following it because at the moment we've had like 100 years ago or whatever, like the societal role for women was in the home and not doing these physical things.
Mm.
What we see today in terms of like the popularity of male dominated sports and gaming as well speaks to this, is that women haven't had those role models to look at and to go into. I think that there is potentially less women that are interested in participating, but in eventually we'll get to a point where we see a more on par like balance in terms of male and female sports
Entry.
being like
Yeah.
more
And
more
watch the
equal. Not, I don't think we'll ever reach like a parity, because I
mm,
definitely think we are predisposed to be a lot more physical and um that kind of thing, and women are predisposed to be a lot more caring and like passive, and I
Mm.
think that because of that we're never going to get to like a parity, unless it's like really really forced, but I definitely think we'll start seeing more of a balance in like 100 or so years, when young girls can grow up having role models to you know go after.
I
Yeah, I
think
don't I don't
sorry.
think like when I was younger, I don't think if I didn't have a brother, I don't think I would have been into games like the same way that I
Mm,
am now if I didn't have like him where he played with his Star Wars Lego or whatever and I'd like join in and or
Yeah.
like playing with Pokemon cards and like all these different things. And I also happened to I also got a friend who was a girl, and she was also like super into games. So like she introduced me to games like
mm,
GTA San Andreas. Like we would play that together, and we'd like and League of Legends. All these different things. So I think if it wasn't for her and my brother, like I don't think I would have been here, enjoying games, etc. Like I
Mm.
am.
Mm.
I always was told like so sort of the way that I see it is gaming was nerdy. It was like nerds play games.
Yeah.
You know, if you love it or if you play it that much, you're a nerd.
Yeah.
And like I remember when I was younger, I absolutely loved playing games. And one of my friends was like, "Oh my god, you're a nerd?" I was being judged, and I was like, "I'm not a nerd." And I was like, "I actually hate games. I only play it because my brother makes me because he needs somebody to help him. I don't do
Gotta
anything though."
pretend. Nice.
Yes, but I think because of that, I never got right into it until I was like, I'm not a nerd. I just really enjoy games. I'm gonna start playing games.
Mm.
But I also wonder if that's why like a lot of girls didn't or like don't get into gaming or like weren't into it that much like years ago because it's still classed as being nerdy if you're a gamer.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that's a what do you say, a generational thing. Like when we were growing up, way less people played games. We're bloody old these days, but like kids these days, like it's just like it's
normal.
inherent. It's everywhere.
And
And,
especially you see with Fortnite that it's like kind of it's uncool.
yeah,
It's
to not-
uncool if you don't play Fortnite.
Yeah, it's
You know?
changing now.
It's interesting
Yeah.
actually. At the moment, everyone has to pretend like they don't play Fortnite. That's the cool thing to do. And
Oh.
then everyone secretly does play it, but they're like, "Oh no, Fortnite! We play Siege and Apex and stuff." Because when something gets to like that
yeah.
height, like Ninja did, of like when you're too high, everyone just wants to
Yep.
cut it down. Anyway, in
Mhm.
Australia, I don't know about
Yeah.
other places, but
yeah, like
with the
I remember we had like we do like dancing or whatever like right now in MP, and we do like this like kind of Charleston or whatever dance, and then we had to do like a kind of freestylish dance, and all the guys just went straight into the Fortnite default dance. Just,
yeah, nice.
and I was like, yeah.
Banana.
They play it.
Yeah, this generation's gonna be good at dancing.
Get it woke.
Yeah.
Coming back to the football, I think it's comparable with the barrier of entry for sure. Like societally, we seem to not push girls in towards sports, or at least it's getting better and better. But physically, guys are always going to be more dominant. I feel like I could say that strongly. That guys are always going to be more physically dominant, and if you match a men's team versus a female team, I mean there'd be some niche sports or something like, I think there's some like marathon that girls can run faster than guys, but guys are almost always going to do a lot better in the sport. Whereas
On
I'm intrigued with gaming because it's very, very hard to tell. Because at the moment, if you take the average guy and the average girl, the guy's going to be better at playing games. So it's intriguing to me to think, is there any kind of like genetic predisposition for girls to not be as good at esports
Interesting.
compared to guys? But I can't see much. Like
possibly.
reflexes should be the same, like cognitive ability should be the same. It doesn't require like huge amounts of like taxing physical pressure to
It could. Well,
push
I
things.
and this is what I'm saying is that like so like from a very young age, throwing balls, which like my dad would like take me down
Yep.
the nets and we'd play cricket together. Everything, all these things that are engaging and developing my motor skills, my hand-to-eye coordination,
Yeah.
that all my competitive nature, So whereas like my sisters wouldn't have that,
We're having
my
tea
Yeah.
parties with dolls.
yeah, and I
You
don't
don't use
necessarily
hand-eye
like
coordination for that.
if they had have said to dad, "Hey dad, can you take me down the nets?" My dad definitely,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
it was but because of that and because I have that inherently growing up, even though I wasn't like a huge gamer when I was a kid, I still like played a few video games. It meant that I still had the motor skills and the
Yeah.
cognitive things to do it and to do it
Yeah.
well. Whereas like potentially girls don't necessarily have all of those things constantly developing those skills that are actually translate well
young
to
age.
gaming.
You were already ahead of the game a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And that said, I think that, and this comes back to what I said before, like in 100 years after, when it's like normal, like girl gamers these days, there's a myriad of they can go on Twitch and they can find hundreds of females that are playing video games
Yeah.
to aspire to relate to become friends with. So gaming is like a lot more of a normal thing
Yeah.
these days, and I think that girls are gonna eventually pick up on that. And it's because like if you have a girl that's gaming from a young age or playing cricket from a young age, for example,
Mm.
they're going to be able to compete, like
Yeah.
so especially in terms of like cognitive reasoning and like speed of reaction and stuff like that. Definitely 100%. So
Yeah.
I think it's all down to like that societal.
I still don't know if I would grant the
Yeah.
cricket and sport example. I feel like they're different. Maybe I'm being nitpicky, but like, do you
Okay,
think
no,
that there's
okay, yeah, no, sorry, yeah, no, 100%. Just because the average male is more physically like is stronger than
Yeah.
your average female.
Wait, even cricket? You don't think that would be just as good or even
Yeah, I
better
mean,
in
there's
cricket?
like every professional cricket player is so much better than me who's a female, right? So obviously there's going to be girls that are way better than guys. But I'm just thinking like the top echelon of guys, the top echelon of girls. I think that physical strength that guys are able to
You
build.
you see it in like pro level like cricketers in the bowl speed, so when you've got a male bowling the ball, he's bowling at like 200 plus kilometers an hour, whereas like the females don't get those speeds. And it's the same in tennis matches. When you watch like the male serve speed in the back of like a pro tennis match, and you watch the female speed in the back of
Yep.
like on the screen in the back of a tennis match, it's not like ridiculous amounts, but it is always on average slower.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
I think
But
it's like,
there's a lot more to a cricket game. I'm not
than bowling
trying
speed, yeah.
to be rude. I'm just saying, okay, so a guy can bowl faster.
Yeah.
He bowls it, she smacks it, some guy doesn't catch it. Whereas if it's she bowls it to him, he slogs it because it's a slower ball. Who says that one of the girls on the field aren't going to catch it just because she's at a disadvantage because she can't throw as fast? Like, not all of the guys can throw equally as fast. Wait,
yeah,
maybe we're
no,
getting
no,
off topic, but
yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And that's what we're kind of saying the same thing, is that like on average, we're talking about on averages here. So like we're not saying that one, like there's definitely going to be girls that can compete 100%. Like there's girls out there that you could chuck into the pro male side right now that would be completely fine.
yeah,
However, on average,
yeah,
and this is like a thing, like on
That's
average,
right.
men develop muscle easier. Men
yeah.
are bigger and taller and stronger on
yeah.
average. Not
It's
because obviously, and we touched on this on the podcast with
feminism stuff.
with Greavesy.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
with Greavesy, and he was like, I am the scrawniest of scrawny dudes. Like my girlfriend, like she is so much physically stronger than me. So like there's obviously like we're talking in averages here, definitely not in like specific people.
Yeah.
And it's to get like super feminist about it. It's because our sporting, the way we measure like metrics in sport is that we're after the most physically and dominant and super athletic people, which is always going to be the guys, right? So the only way that girls will become better than guys at sport is if we create some different sports that don't measure in athleticism and have some sort of different dexterity, and like maybe esports is the one that it comes out if we culturally change into that.
Yeah, because it's got not anything to do with muscle.
Yeah.
Genetics. It's all about muscle memory and learning and cognitive ability, which is really cool. Yeah.
Yep.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, so the word e-girl kind of, well, I mean, we've put it as our topic today, and we've talked a lot about streamers and more just like girls on the